A 7-year-old girl named Sophie stood in the middle of Red Rock Coffee and Mercantile, holding a cardboard sign she'd made from a cereal box. It read, "Hungry," in crayon. For 23 minutes, 42 people walked past her. 42 people who chose not to see a scared child asking for help. But when Sophie finally gathered the courage to approach the man everyone else feared, the one with the scars and the skull patches and the leather vest that said Hell's Angels across the back, everything changed. 220 Hell's Angels mobilized. And what they discovered about Sophie's stepmother would leave the town speechless. This is Sophie and Marcus's story. And the birthday gift her stepmother destroyed? That was just the beginning. Subscribe and comment where you're from. 42 people walked past a 7-year-old holding a hungry sign. 42 people chose not to see. But one Hell's Angel stopped. He saw Sophie. Made one call. 220 bikers ended her stepmother's cruelty. How many times have you walked past someone asking for help? Fear keeps us from helping, but sometimes the scariest people have the biggest hearts. Can you please help me? I'm so hungry. Those 8 words came out in a whisper so soft that Marcus Williams almost didn't hear them over the hiss of the espresso machine. But he did hear them. And when he looked down at the tiny figure standing beside his patio table, when he saw what 7 years old looked like after 11 months of systematic starvation, everything else in the world stopped mattering. The girl was small. Too small. Her purple long-sleeve shirt with the faded unicorn print hung off her like a tent, the sleeves covering her hands completely. Denim overalls held together with safety pins. White sneakers with the sole separated on the right foot. Clear packing tape wrapped around to keep them together. Her hair should have been thick and wavy. You could see that in the bone structure, in the way it tried to curl despite being dull and stringy. But malnutrition had stolen that from her, cut unevenly, like someone had taken kitchen scissors to it without caring about the result. What got Marcus, though, what made his jaw tighten and his hands go still on the table, were her eyes. Hazel. Huge. Too big for her thin face, ringed with dark circles that spoke of exhaustion no child should know. And desperate. So desperate it hurt to look at. She was shaking. Marcus set down his coffee. Slowly. Everything about him was big. 6'3", 240 pounds of muscle and scar tissue, and years of hard living. His shaved head gleamed in the late afternoon sun. The scar running from his right temple to his jaw, courtesy of an IED in Afghanistan, caught the light. Both arms were fully sleeved with tattoos, military imagery, angel wings, memorial pieces for brothers who didn't make it home. His left hand was missing the ring finger, same blast that gave him the facial scar. He looked like exactly the kind of man a smart parent tells their child to avoid. But Sophie had run out of options. She'd tried the young family first, the couple in their 30s with a toddler. The mother's face had closed off the instant Sophie approached, pulled her baby closer like Sophie carried something contagious. The father said, "Sorry, we don't have anything extra," while looking away, and they'd gathered their things and moved to the outdoor patio. Strike one. Then the businesswoman, 50s, designer handbag, working on her laptop. Sophie had stood near her table for 30 seconds, gathering courage. When the woman finally looked up, her expression shifted from neutral to visible disgust in the space of a heartbeat. "Where are your parents? You shouldn't be bothering customers." She'd glanced toward the counter meaningfully, as if considering calling the manager, then returned to her screen, deliberately ignoring Sophie like she was a stain on the tile. Strike 2. The elderly couple with the matching turquoise jewelry had seemed promising. Grandparent types. Sophie had asked, voice small, "Could I please have $1 to buy something small?" The husband started to reach for his wallet, but his wife grabbed his arm. Hard. Then leaned forward with a voice dripping condescension. "Young lady, begging is not appropriate. You should be ashamed. Where we're from, children don't act this way. Go find your mother and tell her to teach you better manners." Find your mother. Sophie's mother had been dead for 23 months. The words cut like glass. Strike 3. But it was the church ladies that broke her. 3 women from Grace Community Church wearing visible cross necklaces, discussing the upcoming Halloween trunk or treat event. Sophie recognized one of them, Mrs. Patterson, who'd been at community events. She'd approached with something like hope. If church people couldn't help, who could? "Mrs. Patterson? I'm Sophie Caldwell. I need help. My stepmom—" "Sophie, honey," Mrs. Patterson interrupted with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your stepmother is a wonderful woman doing her best with a difficult child. We've all heard about your behavioral issues. You know what the Bible says about honoring your parents. This attention-seeking needs to stop. We'll be praying for you to find gratitude in your heart." Another woman added, "Your stepmother volunteers at our church fundraisers. She's doing her best with a difficult child. The Bible says, 'Children, obey your parents.' We'll pray for you to be less selfish." Strike 4. Even God's representatives wouldn't help. That's when Sophie had stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face, and made her choice. The scary biker sitting alone on the patio was her last option. If he said no, she was out of moves. She'd wiped her face with her sleeve, leaving wet streaks on the purple fabric. Taken 3 small steps forward. Stopped. Her thin shoulders rose and fell with a deep breath that caught in her chest. She shuffled forward again, the separated sole of her right shoe catching on tile with a small scraping sound. Tap, scrape, tap, scrape. Every few steps she paused, glancing back toward the door as if expecting Vanessa to appear and drag her home. Her left hand stayed pressed against her small, worn backpack. Her right hand reached for the braided friendship bracelet on her wrist, the one her mother had made before the car accident, touching it for comfort. The final 10 feet, she moved quickly, forcing herself forward before her courage failed completely. And now here she was, standing beside Marcus Williams's table, shaking, starving, out of options. "Can you please help me? I'm so hungry." Now you might be thinking a Hell's Angel hears a desperate child, and his first move is something dramatic. That's not this story. Because Marcus Williams had been a father, had a daughter named Kaylee, who would have been 15 now if leukemia hadn't taken her at 8 years old. And in the 5 years since he'd buried his baby girl, he'd learned something important. The most powerful thing you can do for a terrified child isn't grand gestures. It's simply seeing them. Marcus leaned forward. Not standing. That would loom over her, and she was already scared enough. He moved slowly, deliberately, the way you approach a frightened animal. His scarred face softened, his jaw unclenched. He placed both hands palms down on the table, a non-threatening position, showing he wasn't reaching for anything, wasn't a danger. "Hey there, sweetheart." His voice was gentle, deep, but gentle. "You're safe now. Let's get you fed." He slid his plate with the sandwich half toward her, pushed his water glass closer. His movements were careful, measured. The kind of control that comes from years of working with traumatized veterans at the VA hospital. He'd learned this body language there, how to be big without being threatening, how to offer help without cornering someone. He didn't touch her. That was important. Trauma survivors need space to choose. Instead, he leaned slightly back, creating a protective barrier between her and the rest of the cafe with his body, while giving her room to breathe. His eyes locked on hers with absolute attention. Not pity, not disgust, just presence, the kind of look that says, "You are not invisible. You matter. I see you." With his other hand, he slowly pulled out the chair beside him, patted it gently. "You belong here. You're welcome at my table." Sophie hesitated for only a second. Then hunger won. She slid into the chair and grabbed the sandwich half with both hands, eating too fast, barely chewing. Marcus watched for 5 seconds, then caught the eye of a waitress inside. "Miss, can I get a full kids' meal over here? Burger, fries, apple slices, chocolate milk, and make it quick, please." The waitress started to protest. This was a cafe, not a restaurant. Then saw Sophie, saw the desperation, saw the bruises that were starting to become visible as the girl's sleeve rode up. "Right away," she said quietly. Marcus turned back to Sophie. She'd finished the sandwich half and was drinking his water like she'd been in a desert, which, in a way, she had been. "Slow down, sweetheart," he said gently. "Food's coming. You don't have to rush. Nobody's taking it away." Sophie set down the water glass, looked at him, really looked at him for the first time, took in the scars, the tattoos, the leather vest with its patches, the skull imagery that most people found terrifying. "You're a biker," she said. Statement, not question. "I am. My stepmom says bikers are dangerous." Marcus smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind that understood irony. "Some people think that. What do you think?" Sophie considered this. "You gave me your sandwich." "I did. The church ladies wouldn't even give me $1. And there it was. The thing that made Marcus's chest tighten. A 7-year-old already learning that the world's categories for safe and dangerous were backwards. The food arrived. Burger, fries, apple slices, chocolate milk. Sophie stared at it like she couldn't believe it was real, like it might disappear if she blinked. "It's yours," Marcus said. "All of it. Take your time." She didn't take her time. She devoured it. Between bites, Marcus asked gentle questions. Not interrogating, just present. "What's your name?" "Sophie. Sophie Caldwell." "I'm Marcus. Most people call me Reaper." He saw her eyes widen at the road name. "I know. Sounds scary. Got it from my army days. I was good at finding people who didn't want to be found. Sometimes that's a useful skill." "Were you in a war?" "3 of them. Long time ago now." She touched his scarred hand, the one missing the ring finger. "Did it hurt?" "At first. Not anymore." He paused. "You've got some bruises there, Sophie. Those look like they hurt." Her sleeve had ridden up completely now, revealing the 4 oval marks on her left forearm. Purple-black, 2 to 3 days old. The unmistakable shape of adult fingers gripping too hard. Sophie pulled her arm back instinctively. "I'm clumsy. I fall a lot." "Uh-huh." Marcus didn't push. Not yet. "How old are you, sweetheart?" 7. It's my birthday. Today, October 28th. Something broke in Marcus's chest. It's your birthday? She nodded, eating fries now. I saved my birthday money. $53 my grandparents sent. I used it to buy myself a present, a stuffed rabbit from the mercantile shop. She pointed toward the gift section of the store. I named her Honey Bunny. I've never had a stuffed animal before. Vanessa says they're wasteful. Vanessa's your stepmom? Yes. She married my daddy 11 months ago, after my real mom died in a car accident. Sophie's voice got smaller. Daddy travels a lot for work. He's gone 4 or 5 days every week. When he's home, Vanessa is really nice. But when he leaves... She trailed off. When he leaves, what happens? Sophie looked around the cafe nervously, lowered her voice to barely above a whisper. Can I tell you a secret? Nobody believes me when I tell them. But maybe you will. Marcus leaned in. I'm listening, and I promise you, Sophie, I will believe you. What came out next took 12 minutes. 12 minutes that would change everything. My stepmom says we don't have enough food for me to eat all the time. Sophie's words came between bites. She'd been trained by deprivation to eat when food was available, couldn't waste the opportunity even while talking. She says I need to learn to be grateful and not be greedy. But I'm always hungry. I haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Just one piece of toast. And before that, nothing for a whole day and night. Marcus kept his face neutral. Calm. But his hands under the table had curled into fists. How often does this happen? The not eating? A lot. She says if I follow all the rules exactly right, I get dinner. But the rules keep changing. Like she'll say, clean the bathroom, so I do. But then she says I didn't do it good enough and I don't get dinner. Or she says I had attitude in my voice even though I didn't. Then no food. What about your dad? Can you tell him? Sophie shook her head. He's never there when it happens. And Vanessa is really careful. When Daddy's home, she gives me normal food. She's nice. She smiles. She calls me sweetie. But the second his car leaves for the airport... Sophie's voice dropped even lower. Everything changes. Tell me about the bruises, sweetheart. Sophie touched her left forearm instinctively, then hesitated. Marcus saw the fear, the calculation of whether telling would make things worse. You're safe right now, he said gently. Right here, right now, with me. You're safe. And I need to know what's happening so I can help. Can you be brave for 2 more minutes and tell me? Sophie took a shaky breath, then pushed up her sleeve completely. 4 perfect oval bruises, adult finger marks. Sometimes when I don't follow rules exactly right, Vanessa gets really mad. These are from 3 days ago. I asked if I could have a snack after school because my stomach hurt, and she grabbed my arm really hard and said, "Did I say you could eat? Do you make the rules in this house?" Then she locked me in my room for the rest of the day. She locks you in your room? There's a deadbolt on the outside. Daddy doesn't know. She told him it was broken and just left it there. But she has a key. When he's traveling, she locks me in there, sometimes for days. There's a bucket in there for the bathroom. Shame colored her voice. It's really cold at night because there's no blanket, just one thin one. And I can hear her watching TV and eating dinner downstairs, laughing sometimes. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. This wasn't neglect. This was systematic. How long has this been happening? It started in March, when she first moved in. At first it was small things. She'd forget to make me lunch. Or she'd say my clothes were dirty even when they weren't, make me change 4 or 5 times. Then it got worse. She put locks on the refrigerator and the pantry. Sophie pulled out her right hand, showing him her palm, a circular burn mark. pink scar tissue forming. About 3 weeks old, the exact size and shape of a cigarette. She did this because I told Mrs. Henderson, she's the school counselor, that Vanessa doesn't give me dinner sometimes. Mrs. Henderson called Vanessa, and Vanessa told her I was manipulative and attention-seeking after losing my mother. Then when I got home, she used her cigarette on my hand. She said, "This is what happens to liars. Do you want me to do the other hand too?" Marcus's jaw was so tight it hurt, but he kept his voice gentle. "Did Mrs. Henderson follow up?" "No. Nobody ever follows up. I told the nurse at my school physical in August about the bruises. She wrote, 'Bruising consistent with active child play,' and said I was going through a clumsy phase. I asked Mr. Chen, he's our neighbor, if I could stay at his house for a while in September. He said, 'Family matters should stay in family,' and told my daddy I seemed troubled. Daddy asked me about it, but Vanessa was right there, and she was smiling and looking sad at the same time, and she said, 'Sophie's been having a hard time adjusting, but we're working through it together, aren't we, sweetie?' What was I supposed to say? So nobody helped? Nobody ever helps. Everyone thinks Vanessa is wonderful. She volunteers at church, she does fundraisers, she's on the PTA even though I don't go to that school anymore. She pulled me out to homeschool me. But we don't do any school. I just stay in my room mostly." Marcus was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, "Sophie, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Has Vanessa ever threatened to hurt you worse? Or to kill you?" Sophie's face changed. She set down her hamburger. Her hands started shaking. "I wasn't supposed to hear," she whispered. "But our air vents connect. My room and the master bedroom share the same heating duct. Last week, Tuesday night, Vanessa was on the phone. Daddy was in Denver. It was late. I couldn't sleep because I was so hungry, and I heard her talking." "What did she say?" Sophie closed her eyes. When she spoke, it was like reciting something she'd memorized. Because she had. She'd written it down immediately in a small notebook she kept hidden in the floor vent, knowing nobody would believe her without details. She said, I know. It's taken longer than I thought. The child is more resilient than expected." Sophie's voice shook, but she continued. "No, David's clueless. He's gone 4 days out of 7. When he's home, she plays the perfect traumatized daughter, and he eats it up." Marcus went very still. Sophie continued, tears starting now. "The policy matures in March, but honestly, I don't think we need to wait that long. She's deteriorating fast. Another month, maybe 6 weeks, and it'll look completely natural. Malnutrition, failure to thrive, grief-related decline. The pediatrician already has it documented that she's struggling emotionally. Sophie, there's more." She was crying now, but pushing through. 420,000, clean. Just like with Michael's policy. 215 and they didn't even investigate. Tragic accident, they said. This is even easier because she's already damaged goods. Dead mother trauma, everyone expects these kids to fail. By Thanksgiving, I'll be planning a memorial and picking out a new car. $420,000. Michael's policy, $215,000. A pattern. Sophie looked at Marcus with eyes that held too much knowledge for 7 years. She's waiting for me to die, and she's making it happen. I heard her tell someone nature takes its course. No one questions it when it's already expected. She's dying anyway. I'm just helping the timeline. For 5 seconds, Marcus didn't move, didn't breathe. Then he reached across the table, slowly, asking permission with his eyes. And when Sophie placed her tiny hand in his, he closed his fingers gently around hers. Listen to me, Sophie. Listen very carefully. His voice was steady, absolute. the tone of a military oath. I believe you. Every single word. And I promise you on my daughter's memory, her name was Kaylee, she'd be 15 now, I promise you that woman will never hurt you again. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. You're under my protection now, and that means something. That means the Hell's Angels stand between you and anyone who wants to harm you. We don't abandon our own, and as of right now, you're one of ours. Do you understand me? You're safe. Sophie's tears were falling freely now. You really believe me? I really believe you. And more than that, I'm going to make sure everyone else believes you too. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling some brothers. We're going to make sure you're protected. We're going to document everything. And we're going to stop this. Right now. Today. Your stepmother's timeline just ended. He looked at his watch. 4:47 p.m. David Caldwell, Sophie's father, was scheduled to return from Denver tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. That gave them roughly 25 hours to document evidence, secure Sophie's safety, and build a case strong enough that Vanessa couldn't talk her way out of it. 25 hours to save a life. Marcus scrolled through his contacts and hit a number. 2 rings. Prophet, it's Reaper. Frank Clearwater, president of the Hells Angels Sedona chapter, 61 years old and sharp as a knife, answered with his characteristic calm. What's going on, brother? I need every brother within 100 miles at Red Rock Coffee on 89A. Now. A pause. Not hesitation. Just the gravity of that word. Now. What's going on? 7-year-old girl, systematic starvation, physical abuse, stepmother with a $420,000 life insurance policy, and a history of suspicious deaths. Father comes home tomorrow at 6. We're not waiting for the cops to take their time on this one. Say no more. We're coming. The line went dead. That was it. No questions about proof. No concerns about legal complications. No debate. Just, we're coming. Because that's what Brotherhood meant. Marcus looked at Sophie. You know what's going to happen now? She shook her head. In about 15 minutes, some more bikers are going to start showing up. They're going to look scary. Big guys, leather, tattoos, loud motorcycles. But I need you to remember something. Every single one of them is coming here to protect you. Not to hurt anyone, not to cause trouble. To protect you. To make sure you're safe. To make sure the adults who should have been protecting you start doing their jobs. Can you be brave a little longer? Sophie nodded. Will I have to go back home? To Vanessa? Not if I have anything to say about it. And sweetheart? I have a lot to say about it. The first bike arrived at 5:03 p.m., a Harley-Davidson rumble that made windows rattle. The rider was a man in his late 50s, built like a truck, with a gray beard and arms covered in military tattoos. He walked into the cafe, spotted Marcus, and came straight over. Reaper. Prophet. Marcus stood, and the 2 men clasped forearms. Then Marcus gestured to Sophie. This is Sophie. Sophie. This is Frank. We call him Prophet. He's the president of our chapter. Frank knelt down to Sophie's eye level. Slowly. Non-threatening. His weathered face, marked with the kind of lines that come from decades in the desert sun, softened completely. Hi there, young lady. I hear you've been having a rough time. Sophie nodded. Well, I want you to know something. My brothers and I, we've got what you might call a code. We protect people who can't protect themselves, especially kids. And right now, that means we protect you. Is that okay with you? Okay. Good. He straightened up, turned to Marcus. How many are we expecting? 40 from our chapter should be within 30 minutes. I put calls into Flagstaff, Phoenix, Prescott, and Tucson. Could be 200 by nightfall. Prophet didn't blink. What do we need? Documentation first. Medical eval, photographs of injuries, witness statements, then legal, CPS, police, but on our terms and our timeline. I also need someone to dig into this Vanessa Caldwell's background. Sophie mentioned a previous insurance payout. Guy named Michael. I want to know everything. The second bike arrived, then a third, then 5 at once. By 5:30 p.m., there were 23 motorcycles parked in perfect formation outside Red Rock Coffee and Mercantile. 23 men in leather vests, various ages, various backgrounds, one purpose. Marcus made introductions to the core team. Sophie, these are my brothers. This is Radar. A man in his late 30s, Latino, with intelligent eyes and a detective's watchful posture. He used to be a cop in Phoenix, 15 years. He knows how to document evidence the right way. Radar knelt down, smiled gently. Hey, Sophie. I'm going to help make sure we have everything we need to keep you safe, okay? That means I might need to take some pictures of your bruises and burns. Is that all right? Sophie looked at Marcus. He nodded. She turned back to Radar. Okay. This is Doc, an African-American man in his 50s, with kind eyes and careful hands. He was a combat medic, Army. He's going to check you over, make sure you're okay. Doc's voice was soft. Nothing scary, sweetheart. Just looking to see if you need any medical attention. We're going to take care of you. This is Professor. A white man, late 40s, with reading glasses hanging from his neck, and the gentle demeanor of someone who'd spent decades working with kids. He used to be a high school teacher and counselor. He's really good at talking to people and making sure they're heard. Professor smiled. Hi, Sophie. Would it be okay if we talked for a little bit? Just you and me? I want to hear your story in your own words, and I want to make sure we write it down exactly right. And this, Marcus gestured to the youngest member of the group, late 20s, with tech-savvy eyes and a laptop bag, is Widget. He's our technology expert. Widget grinned. I'm the nerd. I find things on computers. I'm going to help us find out everything we can about your stepmother. And Sophie? Whatever she's done, wherever she's hidden it, I'm going to find it. 4 specialists, 4 skill sets, all focused on one goal: saving Sophie Caldwell's life. Prophet stepped forward. Brothers, let's set up in the conference room. He turned to the cafe manager, who'd been watching with wide eyes. You got a space we can use? The manager, a woman in her 40s, nodded immediately. The back room. Take as long as you need. Appreciate it. Prophet turned to his crew. Radar, start documentation. Doc, medical eval. Professor, interview. Widget, start digging. I want everything on Vanessa Claire Caldwell. Financial, social media, background, prior addresses, everything. Cross-reference with this Michael she mentioned. And someone get CPS and the police on standby, but nobody makes a call until we have our ducks in a row. Clear? A chorus of clear and yes, sir. Within 10 minutes, they'd converted the cafe's back room into a command center. Doc worked with the efficiency of someone who'd treated wounded soldiers under fire. He examined Sophie in the cafe's private restroom with a female employee present. Proper protocol, no room for accusations, while Radar photographed every visible injury with medical precision. Bruising on left forearm, 4 distinct oval contusions, purple-black coloration consistent with 2 to 3 days post-injury. Radar narrated into his phone's voice recorder while his camera clicked. Shape and spacing consistent with adult hand grip, right hand dominant based on thumb positioning. Circular burn scar on right palm, Doc added, his voice tight with controlled anger. Approximately 21 days old based on scar tissue formation. 3/4-inch diameter, consistent with lit cigarette contact. Click. Multiple contusions on both anterior tibias in various stages of healing. Green-yellow discoloration here, purple here, brown-yellow here. Pattern suggests repeated impact with hard edge, approximately knee height. 6 distinct impact sites visible. Click. Severe malnutrition. Patient is 7 years old, height 3'9", weight 41 pounds. Expected weight range for age and height is 52 to 55 pounds. 11-pound deficit. Visible prominence of clavicles, ribs, hip bones. Hair shows signs of nutritional deficiency. Brittle, thin, dull. Nails brittle and ridged. Doc looked at Sophie with gentle eyes. "Sweetheart, when was the last time you saw a doctor?" August? For school. But Vanessa was there the whole time." "Did the doctor ask about your weight?" "He weighed me. He looked at the chart. Then Vanessa said I was a picky eater and she was working on it, and he said to try protein shakes." Sophie's voice was small. "But Vanessa never bought any protein shakes." Doc nodded slowly, made a note. "And before that?" "Not since before my mom died. That was almost 2 years ago." 2 years. A 7-year-old child who'd gone 2 years without proper medical care while living with a woman who drove a BMW and got weekly manicures. Radar finished his photographs. 23 images total, each one dated, time-stamped, GPS tagged, admissible in court. "We're done, Sophie. You did great," Doc said. "I'm going to write up a formal medical assessment. This documentation shows evidence of systematic physical abuse, neglect, and failure to provide adequate nutrition and medical care." While Doc and Radar worked, Professor had set up in the corner booth with Sophie a legal pad and a small recording device. "Sophie, I'm going to record our conversation, okay? That way we make sure we get everything exactly right. You can stop anytime you want to. You're in control here. Ready?" Sophie nodded. Professor hit record. October 28th, 2025, 5:47 p.m. Interview with Sophie Marie Caldwell, age 7, conducted by James Mitchell with her consent. "Sophie, can you tell me in your own words what's been happening at home?" And Sophie told him. Everything. The timeline starting in March, when Vanessa moved in. The gradual escalation. The locks on the refrigerator and pantry. Professor made a note to photograph those. The bedroom confinement. The timed meals with 8 minutes to eat or food removed. The wooden paddle labeled Attitude Adjustment Tool kept visible as a threat. The cigarette burn for telling the truth. Professor's hand shook slightly as he wrote, but his voice stayed gentle. Encouraging. Never leading, just listening. 22 minutes of testimony. Detailed, specific. Impossible for a 7-year-old to fabricate. When she got to the overheard phone conversation, Professor had her repeat it twice. Word for word. She did, identically both times. Because she'd written it down immediately. Because she'd known nobody would believe her without exact details. "Sophie, do you still have that notebook? The one where you wrote down what you heard?" "Yes. It's in the floor vent in my room, under the metal grate. There's a loose piece of insulation and I hide things there. The notebook and my birthday money that's left, $17. Vanessa doesn't know about it." "We're going to need to get that notebook," Professor said quietly. Then, to Sophie, "You did something incredibly smart. Writing it down, keeping evidence. You protected yourself the only way you could. You should be proud of that." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "Nobody ever says I'm smart. Vanessa says I'm stupid and damaged and broken." "Vanessa," Professor said carefully, is a liar. You are brave and smart and strong, and you're going to be okay. Across the room, Widget's fingers flew across his laptop keyboard. Got her, he muttered. Vanessa Claire Montgomery, maiden name. Born 1987, Sacramento. Moved to Sedona, March 2024. Prior residence, Denver, Colorado. Before that, Phoenix. And before that, Sacramento. He pulled up social media. Facebook, Instagram, carefully curated images. Vanessa in yoga pants at the gym. Vanessa at church fundraisers. Vanessa with David Caldwell, looking like the perfect couple. Vanessa volunteering at food drives. Public face is immaculate, Widget said. But let's see what's behind it. He ran financial checks, as much as he could access legally through public records and skip tracing databases. Credit report showed significant debt. Car loan underwater. Multiple credit cards near limit. She's broke, Widget said. Or close to it. BMW lease she can't afford, designer clothes she's charging, living beyond her means significantly. Then he searched. Michael plus Vanessa Montgomery plus Denver plus death plus 2022. Bingo. Holy shit. Widget's eyes widened. I found him. Michael James Foster, age 42, died July 2022 in Denver. Cause of death, accidental carbon monoxide poisoning from faulty water heater. Engaged to Vanessa Claire Montgomery. Death occurred 8 months after engagement. He dug deeper, found the obituary, then cross-referenced with insurance databases. Harder, required some creative searching, but he had connections. Life insurance policy, $215,000. Beneficiary, Vanessa Claire Montgomery, fiancé. Payout issued September 2022. He kept digging, found something else. Water heater was serviced and certified safe 3 weeks before the incident. Malfunction was considered unlikely but not impossible. Vanessa was conveniently at her sister's house that weekend. Only Michael died. Widget's jaw tightened. She's done this before. This is her pattern. Prophet walked over, read over his shoulder. Print everything. We need hard copies. And see if you can find the insurance policy on Sophie. Already on it? Widget's fingers flew. 10 minutes later, he'd accessed enough public and semi-public records to piece it together. Policy on Sophie Caldwell. $420,000. Taken out March 15, 2020. 4. 3 weeks after Vanessa married David Caldwell. Beneficiary, David Caldwell, primary. Vanessa Caldwell, secondary. But, he pulled up another document. Vanessa has power of attorney for household finances. She controls everything. The pieces were coming together. A pattern of insuring people, waiting just past the 2-year contestability period when insurance companies stop investigating thoroughly, then arranging natural or accidental deaths. Michael Foster, 8 months. Carbon monoxide, $215,000. Sophie Caldwell, 11 months and counting. Starvation presented as failure to thrive, $420,000. She's a serial killer, Prophet said quietly. Life insurance Black Widow, and Sophie was supposed to be victim number 2. By 6:30 p.m., the motorcycles stretched down the entire block. They'd come from everywhere. 40 from Sedona, 35 from Flagstaff, 52 from Phoenix, 28 from Prescott, 41 from Tucson, 24 independent riders who'd heard the call and come anyway, 220 bikers. The rumble had started low and distant, like thunder on the horizon. Then it grew into a roar that shook windows and set off car alarms. Engines cutting off in near unison, the sudden silence after all that noise feeling heavy and expectant. They parked in disciplined formation. Military precision. Not chaos. Not a mob. An organized force with a single purpose. Prophet stood in the cafe doorway, watching them assemble. Leather vests bearing the same insignia. Chrome gleaming in the sunset light. Men and women of various ages, various backgrounds. Unified. 220 people who'd dropped everything. Dinner, work, family time. Because a 7-year-old girl needed help, and the system had failed her. Now you might be imagining that kind of presence means violence. Fists ready, chaos brewing. That's what the tourists pressing their faces to windows expected. That's what the local police, now gathering nervously at the end of the block, feared. But here's what actually happened. Nothing. 220 bikers stood there, not moving, not shouting, simply present. A wall of leather and chrome and absolute commitment that said, "We see this child. We will not look away." Prophet called a meeting inside. The cafe was too small, so they moved to the parking lot. Brothers formed a circle. Sophie stayed with Marcus, his hand on her shoulder. Protective, not possessive. "Here's what we know," Prophet said, voice carrying across the assembled group. He laid out the facts methodically. Sophie's testimony, medical documentation, financial evidence, the pattern with Michael Foster, the overheard conversation about insurance money and timelines. "We have 24 hours before her father returns. We need to move carefully but quickly. This isn't about revenge. This is about protection and justice. We do this right by the book, so it sticks." He assigned teams. Team 1, Radar and 8 brothers go to Sophie's house. Document everything. Photograph the locks, the bedroom conditions, the paddle, everything. Get that notebook from the floor vent. If Vanessa's there, you maintain position but don't engage. Record everything. Team 2, Widget and 4 brothers continue evidence gathering. We need every piece of paper connecting Vanessa to both insurance policies. We need Michael Foster's full history. We need witnesses who knew him and can speak to suspicious circumstances. Team 3, Professor, I need you talking to people who should have helped. The school counselor, the pediatrician, the neighbor. Get their statements on record. Let them explain why they didn't act. Team 4, everyone else maintains perimeter here and at Sophie's house. Visible presence. We're not hiding. We want Vanessa to know she's got 220 people watching now. She can't make this child disappear quietly anymore. Prophet looked around the circle. Questions? Silence. All in favor? For a moment, nothing. Just the distant sound of traffic and the cooling tick of motorcycle engines. Then every single hand went up. Not a moment's hesitation. Not a single dissenting voice. 220 people voting unanimously to help a girl they'd never met. Then let's move, Prophet said. Radar's team arrived at 1247 Canyon Ridge Drive at 7:15 p.m. The house was exactly what you'd expect for someone presenting a perfect facade. Upscale neighborhood, well-maintained lawn, 2-car garage, seasonal decorations, Halloween pumpkins on the porch, a wreath on the door. The white BMW X3 sat in the driveway. Vanessa was home. Radar knocked. Professional. Firm. The door opened. Vanessa Caldwell stood there in Lululemon athletic wear, blonde highlights perfect, makeup flawless. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who spent her mornings at yoga and her afternoons volunteering at church. Respectable. Put together. Dangerous. Can I help you? Her voice was warm. Practiced concern. Ma'am, I'm Ramon Santos, private investigator. We're conducting a welfare check on Sophie Caldwell. Is she home? Vanessa's expression shifted, just for a microsecond, before the concern mask slid back into place. Sophie? Oh my goodness, is she okay? She's been missing since after school. I've been worried sick. She pulled out her phone. I was just about to call the police. Radar smiled. Didn't believe a word. That won't be necessary, ma'am. Sophie's safe. She's with Child Protective Services right now. That got a reaction. Brief. Controlled. But there. I don't understand. Why would CPS? Ma'am, we have documentation of physical abuse, neglect, and systematic starvation. We also have testimony regarding an insurance policy and threatening statements. We're going to need to come in and document the residents. You can't just... I don't consent to... Where's my stepdaughter? I demand to see her right now. That's not going to happen. You can cooperate with documentation, or we can wait for police with a warrant. Your choice. But either way, we're documenting this residence tonight. Vanessa's face hardened, the mask slipping. I know my rights. You can't force your way into my home. I'm calling my lawyer. Please do. Radar gestured to the 8 bikers standing on her lawn, cameras in hand. While you're at it, you might want to explain to him why there are combination locks on your refrigerator and pantry, why your stepdaughter's bedroom has a deadbolt on the outside, and why you took out a $420,000 life insurance policy on a 7-year-old 3 weeks after marrying her father. Vanessa's eyes went wide, just for a second, then narrowed. Get off my property. We're on the sidewalk, ma'am. Public property. And we're not leaving. You see, here's the thing about child abuse cases. Once they're reported, they don't go away because you ask nicely. Sophie's already given testimony. We already have medical evidence. We already know about Michael Foster and that $215,000 payout in Denver. That name, Michael Foster. Vanessa actually flinched. I don't know what that child told you, but she's disturbed, traumatized from losing her mother. She makes things up for attention. I've been trying so hard to help her. Save it for the judge. Radar pulled out his phone. Sedona PD is already on their way with CPS. They'll have a warrant in about... He checked his watch. 30 minutes. You can let us document now and cooperate, or you can wait for police and make this harder on yourself. But either way, this house is getting searched tonight. Vanessa slammed the door. Radar turned to his team. Cameras up. Document everything visible from outside. Windows, yard, any evidence visible through glass. Stay legal. Stay professional. They worked systematically, photographing the exterior, the locks visible through the kitchen window, the bedroom on the 2nd floor with bars on the inside of the door. You could just see them if you looked carefully. 20 minutes later, Sedona PD arrived with CPS caseworker Linda Martinez and a search warrant signed by Judge Richardson. While Radar's team worked the house, Professor was conducting interviews. First, Margaret Maggie Thornton, 63, next-door neighbor. She'd lived at 1245 Canyon Ridge Drive for 18 years. She'd seen everything. Mrs. Thornton, can you tell me what you observed regarding Sophie Caldwell's living situation? Maggie's hands shook as she spoke. I heard her crying. Through the walls. Our houses are close, and sound carries. I heard her crying and begging, saying, please, I'm hungry, please, over and over. This was at night, late, maybe 11 p.m., midnight. How often did you hear this? Twice a week, sometimes more. For months, Her voice broke. I convinced myself it wasn't my business, that I didn't know the full story, that maybe she was having nightmares about her mother. Did you ever see Sophie outside? Not after Vanessa pulled her from school. Before that, I'd see her getting on the bus. She was thin, but I thought maybe she was just naturally small. After homeschooling started, I never saw her. Not once. I noticed that. I thought it was odd, but I told myself she couldn't meet Professor's eyes. I told myself it wasn't my place to interfere. Did you ever contact anyone? CPS, police, school? No. And I'll have to live with that. Tears now. I heard a child crying for food, and I did nothing. I looked the other way because it was easier than getting involved. Professor documented it all. The guilt, the missed opportunity, the system failure that was just ordinary people choosing comfort over action. Next, Daniel Chen, 71, 2 houses down. Mr. Chen, Sophie came to you in September and asked to stay at your house. Is that correct? Yes. Daniel's voice was heavy. She came to my door. She was so small. She asked if she could stay for a while. She said home wasn't safe, but she was so quiet about it, and I thought maybe she was exaggerating. Kids do that sometimes when they're disciplined. I told her family matters should stay in family. Did you follow up at all? I mentioned to her father that she seemed troubled. He assured me everything was fine, that she was adjusting to her stepmother. He seemed like a good man. I believed him. Daniel's eyes were wet. 2 months later, I saw her going through my trash. Early morning, maybe 6 a.m. I was getting my newspaper, and there she was, looking for food in my garbage can. I should have done something then, but I didn't. I went inside. Professor made careful notes. Another failure. Another adult who saw and chose not to act. Third, Patricia Henderson, 52, school counselor at Red Rock Elementary. Patricia had been the first person Sophie told. Back in May, Sophie came to my office. She said, "Vanessa doesn't give me dinner sometimes." Those were her exact words. What did you do? I called Vanessa Caldwell. I asked her about Sophie's statement. Vanessa explained that Sophie had been having behavioral issues since her mother's death, that she was attention-seeking and manipulative, that she was working with a therapist, though I never saw documentation of that. Vanessa was so convincing, so concerned, so normal. Did you follow up with Sophie? I asked her about it the next day. She said everything was fine. But I remember. Patricia's voice cracked. I remember she wouldn't look at me. She kept her hands in her pockets. She said, "Vanessa explained the rules to me. I understand now. She was so flat, so defeated. I should have known." Why didn't you report to CPS? Because I believed the adult over the child. Because Vanessa was PTA, church volunteer, respected in the community. Because Sophie had lost her mother, and trauma makes kids say things. Because... She stopped. Because I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to accuse a seemingly good person of child abuse based on one statement from a grieving child. So I convinced myself it was fine. Professor closed his notebook. Sophie told me she tried 3 times to get help. You, a nurse, and a neighbor. 3 separate adults. 3 failures. Patricia nodded. We all failed her. The system didn't just have cracks. It had canyons, and we pushed her through them. At 8:47 p.m., police arrested Vanessa Claire Caldwell. She'd been in her living room, watching HDTV, eating takeout Thai food. A normal evening. Because to her, this was normal. Evil wears ordinary faces. When Detective Sarah Morrison read her rights, Vanessa was wearing reading glasses and holding a glass of wine. She looked annoyed, like someone interrupted during routine relaxation. Vanessa Claire Caldwell, you're under arrest for felony child abuse, child endangerment, attempted murder, and fraud. You have the right to remain silent. The same hands that had burned Sophie with cigarettes were now cuffed behind her back. The same woman who'd starved a 7-year-old was pressed face down against her expensive hardwood floors while officers secured the scene. "This is ridiculous," Vanessa said. Voice sharp now, facade cracking. "That child is a liar. She's manipulative. She's damaged. You'll see. Everyone will see. I'm the victim here. I've been trying to help her, and this is how—" "Ma'am, we found the locks on your refrigerator. We found the deadbolt on the outside of her bedroom door. We found the wooden paddle. We found your insurance policy documents. We found evidence linking you to Michael Foster's death in Denver. You can stop talking now." That shut her up. They took her out in handcuffs at 9:03 p.m. 220 bikers watched silently as she was loaded into the police car. No jeering, no shouting, just witnessing, making sure she knew she'd been seen. Detective Morrison approached Prophet. "We've got enough for charges. Medical evidence, witness testimony, financial documents, Sophie's statement. CPS is taking emergency custody. We're recommending no bail given flight risk and severity of charges." "What's she looking at?" "Felony child abuse, Class 2 felony in Arizona, 2 to 8 years. Child endangerment, another 2 to 5. Attempted murder if we can prove intent from that phone conversation. Sophie's testimony plus the insurance evidence makes that viable, 10 to 25. Insurance fraud, another 5 to 15. If we can connect her to Michael Foster's death, potentially more." Morrison paused. "She'll go to trial. This is going to be big, and I need you to know, officially, I can't condone civilian intervention. But unofficially?" She looked at the assembled bikers. "You saved that girl's life. The system failed. You didn't. So thank you." Prophet nodded. "We protect our own. She's ours now." Back at the cafe, Sophie sat with Marcus, Doc, and Widget. She'd been told about the arrest, about the evidence, about the fact that she'd never have to go back to that house. "What happens to me now?" she asked quietly. "CPS is working on placement," Marcus said. "Your father's being contacted. He's flying back tonight. But Sophie, here's what I want you to understand. You're not alone. You have 220 people who showed up for you today. And we don't disappear just because the emergency is over. We're your family now. Hell's Angels take care of family." Widget looked up from his laptop. "Sophie, I found something else. Your maternal grandparents, your mom's parents, they've been trying to contact you. Vanessa blocked them, told them you didn't want contact. But they've been sending letters, birthday cards, trying to stay in your life. They're in Tucson. I called them. They're driving up tonight." Sophie's eyes went wide. "My Nana and Papa? They want to see me?" "They never stopped wanting to see you. Vanessa lied. They're going to be here in about 3 hours." For the first time that day, Sophie smiled. Really smiled. "She's going to prison, isn't she?" Sophie asked. "Vanessa?" Marcus nodded. "She is. For a very long time." "Good." Sophie touched her friendship bracelet, the one her mother made. "My mom would have wanted me to be safe." "Your mom would be so proud of you," Marcus said quietly. "You survived. You were smart. You were brave. You saved yourself by being brave enough to ask for help one more time. Even after everyone else said no, you didn't give up. That's strength, Sophie. Real strength." Sophie leaned against Marcus's shoulder. Safe. Fed. Protected. Outside, 220 motorcycles sat silent under the desert stars. Tomorrow would bring more challenges. Court proceedings, therapy, rebuilding. But tonight, a 7-year-old girl who'd been dying slowly in plain sight while respectable people looked away was finally, truly safe. Because sometimes the scariest-looking people in the room are exactly the ones you need. And sometimes justice doesn't come from the system. It comes from Brotherhood. Sophie's father, David Caldwell, arrived at Sedona Regional Medical Center at 11:43 p.m. He'd gotten the call in Denver at 7:30 p.m., had been on the first flight he could catch, spent 3 hours in the air not knowing if his daughter was alive or dead, only that she was in protective custody and his wife had been arrested. When he walked into the hospital room where Sophie was being kept for observation, Doc had insisted on a full medical workup. He stopped in the doorway. Sophie was asleep. IV in her arm, pumping fluids and nutrients. Marcus sat in a chair beside her bed, awake, watchful. The big biker with the scars and the Hell's Angels vest keeping vigil over a 7-year-old who'd asked him for help. "Mr. Caldwell?" Marcus stood slowly, extended his hand. "I'm Marcus Williams. I'm the one who called this in." David stared at his daughter, at how small she looked in the hospital bed, at the IV, at the medical chart hanging at the foot of the bed that listed her weight. 41 pounds, 11 pounds underweight. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I swear to God, I didn't know." "I believe you." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "Vanessa was careful. She waited until you were gone. She maintained the facade when you were home. But Mr. Caldwell, you need to understand something. You're going to have to live with the fact that you didn't see it, that you trusted the wrong person, that your daughter almost died while you were traveling for work." David's legs gave out. He sank into a chair, head in his hands. "How bad is it?" "Severe malnutrition, dehydration, multiple untreated injuries, psychological trauma that's going to take years to heal. And if we hadn't intervened tonight..." Marcus paused. "Your wife had a $420,000 life insurance policy on Sophie. She was planning to let her starve to death and collect. She'd done it before. A man named Michael Foster in Denver. $215 payout. Same pattern." David looked like he might be sick. "I married a monster." "You married a very convincing liar. That's what sociopaths do. They're good at it." Marcus sat back down. "But here's what matters now. Sophie needs you. The real you. Present, awake, paying attention. She needs a father who chooses her over career, over convenience, over everything. Can you be that person?" David looked at his sleeping daughter. "I don't know how to fix this." "You can't fix it. You can only move forward. And you don't do it alone." Marcus gestured out the window, where even at midnight, a dozen motorcycles sat in the hospital parking lot. "Sophie's got family now. Hell's Angels don't abandon our own. We're going to make sure she's protected, fed, safe, and heard. But she needs her father, too. So the question is, are you going to step up?" David nodded slowly. "Whatever it takes. I'll quit my job if I have to. I'll sell the house. Whatever she needs." "Good. Because tomorrow morning, CPS is going to have questions. And you're going to need answers." Sophie woke at 2:17 a.m. to find her father sitting beside her bed, holding her hand gently. "Daddy?" Her voice was small, uncertain. "Hey, baby girl." David's eyes were red from crying. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I didn't see. I'm sorry I let this happen to you." "You didn't know. Vanessa was really good at pretending." That doesn't make it okay. I should have been home more. I should have paid attention. I should have... His voice broke. Sophie, I failed you. But I promise you, I'm never going to fail you again. From now on, you come first, always. Sophie touched her friendship bracelet, the one her mother made. Mom would have known. Mom always knew when something was wrong. She would have. Your mom was... David couldn't finish. Just held his daughter's hand while she cried for her mother, for the lost time, for everything Vanessa had stolen. Marcus stood quietly and slipped out of the room, gave them privacy. But he didn't go far. Just outside the door, where he could still see through the window. Still watching. Still protecting. At 3:00 a.m., Sophie's maternal grandparents arrived. Ellen and Robert Chen, both in their late 60s, who'd been blocked from their granddaughter for 11 months. They'd driven 4 hours from Tucson the moment Widget called. Ellen took one look at Sophie through the hospital room window and broke down sobbing. Robert just stood there, jaw tight, hands clenched. We tried to visit. We called. We sent letters, birthday cards, Christmas presents. Vanessa told us Sophie didn't want contact, that seeing us was too painful, reminded her too much of Jessica. We believed her. We shouldn't have, but we did. She lied to everyone, Marcus said quietly. That was her gift, making people believe. Is our granddaughter going to be okay? Physically? With time and proper care, yes. Emotionally? That's going to take longer. She's been through hell, but she's strong, and now she's got people who actually see her. That matters. At 3:30 a.m., David signed temporary custody papers, allowing Sophie's grandparents to take her after hospital discharge. The house in Sedona held too many bad memories. Sophie would stay with her Nana and Papa in Tucson, while David got his life in order, found a new job with less travel, sold the house, started therapy, became the father Sophie needed. CPS caseworker Linda Martinez approved the arrangement. Temporary kinship placement with maternal grandparents, supervised initially, with reunification plan for father pending completion of parenting classes and therapy. This is good, Mr. Caldwell. This is the right choice. Sophie was discharged from the hospital at noon the next day with strict instructions. Regular meals, high-calorie nutrition plan supervised by a dietitian, weekly medical checkups for the first month, therapy twice a week, and a follow-up with a pediatric specialist in 2 weeks. Doc had already arranged everything. Called in favors, connected with physicians who understood trauma, set up appointments. Because that's what brothers did. Radar had documented every medical instruction, created a binder with Sophie's care plan, medication schedule, vitamins, iron supplements for anemia, and emergency contacts. Professor had connected Sophie's grandparents with a family therapist in Tucson who specialized in childhood trauma and abuse recovery. First appointment, November 2nd, 3 days away. Widget had recovered all of Sophie's belongings from the house, clothes, books, the small treasures a 7-year-old collects. He'd also found something else hidden in Vanessa's home office, a ledger detailing every meal Sophie had been given over the past 8 months. Dates, times, calorie counts, proof of systematic starvation, written in Vanessa's own handwriting, evidence that would seal her fate in court. But before Sophie left for Tucson, there was one more thing. Marcus had made a call at 6:00 a.m. to Red Rock Coffee and Mercantile. Spoke to the manager. Made a request. At 1:00 p.m., Sophie walked back into the cafe, this time with her father, her grandparents, Marcus, and Prophet. The place was packed. 220 bikers had reconvened. But this time, they weren't there for rescue. They were there for a birthday party. The cafe had been transformed. Balloons. Purple. Sophie's favorite color. Streamers. A banner that read, "Happy 7th Birthday, Sophie," stretched across the back wall. Tables pushed together, covered with food. A cake. 3 layers, chocolate with vanilla frosting, decorated with unicorns. Real unicorns. Not like the faded print on her too big purple shirt. Sophie stopped in the doorway. Stared. What is this? This, Marcus said, kneeling down to her level, is the birthday party you should have had yesterday. Before everything went wrong. Before Vanessa destroyed your gift. This is what happens when you're family. But I don't have any friends. I don't know these people. Prophet stepped forward. You know us, and we're your family now. Hell's Angels take care of family. That means birthdays. That means celebrations. That means showing up, always. Sophie walked slowly into the cafe. Bikers parted, making a path. Every single one of them smiled at her. Not with pity, with genuine warmth. On the main table sat a stuffed rabbit, identical to the one Sophie had bought with her birthday money. The one Vanessa had destroyed. "Honey bunny," Sophie whispered. "Widget tracked down the same one from the mercantile," Marcus said. "Exact same rabbit. But that's not all." Beside the rabbit sat a small leather vest. Child-sized, black leather with a patch on the back that read, "Honorary Angel," and embroidered underneath, "Kaylee's sister." Marcus's voice was thick. "My daughter Kaylee would be 15 now. She'd want you to have this. You're part of the family, Sophie. Honorary Hell's Angel. That means something. It means protection. It means you matter. It means you're never alone again." Sophie picked up the vest with shaking hands. "I can really keep this?" "It's yours. Forever." She put it on. It fit perfectly. When she turned around, 220 bikers started clapping. No whooping, no shouting. Just steady, respectful applause for a 7-year-old girl who'd survived hell and come out the other side. Sophie hugged the stuffed rabbit to her chest, looked around at all these scary-looking people with their leather and tattoos and scars who'd dropped everything to save her life, who'd believed her when nobody else would, who'd shown up for her birthday when her own stepmother had tried to kill her. "Thank you," she whispered. "No, sweetheart," Prophet said. "Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help, for not giving up, for trusting us. You saved yourself. We just showed up when you called." They sang happy birthday. Sophie blew out the candles. 7 + 1 to grow on. Made a wish. Later, she'd tell Marcus she wished that no other kids would have to go through what she did, that someone would always show up when children needed help. She ate cake. Real food. As much as she wanted. Nobody timing her. Nobody taking it away. Doc sat nearby. Gentle reminder to eat slowly after prolonged starvation, but letting her have joy. Letting her be a kid. Radar presented her with a photo album. Pictures from the rescue operation. Not the painful parts. The evidence photos stayed sealed, but images of all the brothers who'd shown up. The motorcycles lined up. The cafe transformed. "So you remember," Radar said, "that you have 220 people who've got your back." Widget gave her a tablet loaded with educational games and e-books. For homeschooling. The good kind. The kind that's actually learning. Your Nana's going to help you catch up on what you missed. You're smart, Sophie. Don't let anyone ever tell you different. Professor handed her a journal. Leather-bound, pages blank. For writing down your thoughts, the good ones and the hard ones. Sometimes getting them out of your head and onto paper helps. And Sophie, what you went through wasn't your fault. Not any of it. You were the victim. Vanessa was the criminal. Don't ever let anyone confuse those roles. At 3:00 p.m., Sophie's grandparents prepared to take her home to Tucson. New home. Safe home. Home with people who'd been desperately trying to reach her for almost a year. Marcus walked her to their car, knelt down one last time. You've got my number. Your Nana has it too. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call me, day or night. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. and you had a nightmare. I don't care if it's a bad day and you just need to talk. You call, I answer. That's the promise. Okay? Sophie nodded. Then, unexpectedly, she hugged him. Tight. This massive, scarred biker who looked like he could break someone in half, holding a 7-year-old girl like she was made of glass. You saved my life, Sophie whispered. You saved your own life by being brave enough to ask for help, Marcus whispered back. I just had the honor of showing up. Sophie got in the car, strapped into her booster seat. Her grandparents had bought one that morning, held Honey Bunny in her lap, wore her honorary angel vest. As the car pulled away, she turned and waved at the 220 bikers standing in the parking lot. Every single one waved back. 6 months later, Sophie Marie Caldwell stood in her Nana's kitchen in Tucson, making pancakes. She'd gained 15 pounds, was now a healthy 56 pounds, right in the expected range for a 7.5-year-old. Her hair had started to grow in thicker, shinier. The dark circles under her eyes had faded. The bruises had healed completely. The burn scar on her palm remained, would always remain. But it had become something different. Not a mark of victimization, a reminder of survival. She flipped a pancake, smiled when she got it right. Nice job, sweetie, Nana said, cutting strawberries nearby. Sophie had been in therapy twice a week since November Doctor. Sarah Chen, no relation to her grandparents, just coincidence, specialized in childhood trauma. They'd worked through a lot. The nightmares had decreased from every night to once or twice a week. The hypervigilance around food had eased. Sophie could leave food on her plate now without panicking. The flinching when adults raised their voices had mostly stopped. Mostly. Healing wasn't linear. But it was happening. She'd enrolled in school in January, 2nd grade at Desert Willow Elementary. Made friends. Real friends. A girl named Maya, who liked unicorns. A boy named Josh, who collected rocks. Normal 7-year-old friendships built on shared interests instead of trauma. She'd made honor roll in her first semester, turned in every assignment, participated in class. Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had written on her report card, Sophie is a joy to have in class, curious, kind, and resilient. She's thriving. Thriving. Sophie visited her father every other weekend. David had quit his traveling sales job, took a position at a local firm in Tucson, less money, more time, sold the Sedona house, couldn't bear to live there after everything, started therapy himself, working through the guilt of not seeing, not knowing, not protecting. He and Sophie were rebuilding their relationship slowly, carefully, with honesty about what had been lost and what could still be saved. The Hells Angels had kept their promise. Marcus called every Sunday, just to check in. Sometimes they talked for 5 minutes. sometimes an hour. He'd become the uncle Sophie never had. The protective presence who showed up to her school events, her birthday parties, her moments of triumph and struggle. Prophet had established something called Angel's Watch, a program where Hell's Angels chapters across Arizona provided welfare checks and support for at-risk children. Sophie's case had inspired it. 3 other children had been removed from abusive situations because brothers knew what signs to look for now. Knew how to document. Knew how to navigate the system. Widget had created a database tracking child welfare cases, cross-referencing with insurance policies, identifying patterns. He'd found 2 more potential cases similar to Sophie's, stepmothers with suspicious insurance policies and prior accidental deaths. Both were under investigation now. Radar had testified at Vanessa's trial in February. So had Doc. So had Professor. So had Sophie in a closed session with victim advocates present. The trial lasted 4 days. The jury deliberated for 93 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Vanessa Claire Caldwell was sentenced to 32 years in state prison. No possibility of parole for 25. She'd be 70 years old before she'd even be considered for release. Michael Foster's case had been reopened. Denver police were building a murder case. If they succeeded, Vanessa would never see freedom again. Sophie had been in the courtroom when the verdict was read, sitting between Marcus and her Nana. When the judge said guilty, Sophie had touched her friendship bracelet, her mother's bracelet, and whispered, "It's over, Mom. I'm safe now." But this story isn't really about bikers or patches or dramatic rescues. It's about something deeper. It's about what happens when systems fail, when the people who are supposed to protect children, teachers, counselors, doctors, neighbors, even church volunteers, look the other way because it's easier than getting involved. Because they believe the respectable adult over the suffering child. Because they don't want to be wrong, don't want to make waves, don't want to risk their comfort for someone else's crisis. Sophie tried to get help 4 separate times. 4 times, she was dismissed, disbelieved, or ignored. By the time she approached Marcus in that cafe, she'd learned that the world's categories for safe and dangerous were completely backwards. The church ladies with their cross necklaces and scripture quotes, dangerous. They weaponized religion to shame a starving child. The respectable businesswoman, dangerous. She saw Sophie as a problem to be removed, not a child to be helped. The sweet elderly couple, dangerous. They valued propriety over compassion, manners over mercy. The school counselor, the pediatrician, the neighbor, all dangerous in their passivity. Their refusal to see, their choice to believe the convenient lie over the difficult truth. But the scary biker with the scars and the skull patches, he saved her life because he'd lost his own daughter and knew that protection isn't about looking respectable, it's about showing up. It's about believing children when they tell you they're in danger. It's about taking action even when it's uncomfortable, even when you might be wrong, even when it disrupts your day. The Hell's Angels didn't help Sophie because they're perfect. They helped because they have a code. Protect those who can't protect themselves. That code made them more reliable than the entire social safety net that was supposed to catch her. Think about that. If you've ever felt invisible, this story is for you. If you've ever told the truth and been called a liar, this story is for you. If you've ever needed help and been turned away by people who should have cared, this story is for you. And if you're someone who has the power to help, teacher, neighbor, parent, friend, stranger in a coffee shop, this story is your wake-up call. There are Sophies everywhere. Children suffering in plain sight while respectable people look away. Kids going hungry in houses with full refrigerators. Kids being hurt by the people who are supposed to love them. Kids trying to tell their truth to adults who don't want to hear it. Pay attention. Listen when a child hesitates before answering, "How are things at home?" Notice when a kid is too thin, too quiet, too careful around certain adults. Ask uncomfortable questions. Make waves. Risk being wrong. Because here's what Sophie's story teaches us. You don't need 200 motorcycles to change a child's life. You just need to believe them when they say they need help. You just need to make one phone call. Document one concern. Report one suspicion. You just need to be the person who doesn't look away. The system failed Sophie 4 times. 4 separate points where an adult could have stopped the abuse and chose not to. 4 chances to save a life. Marcus Williams, a man most people would cross the street to avoid, was the only one who succeeded. Not because he was bigger or tougher or scarier, because he was paying attention, because he believed a child, because he took action immediately and didn't stop until she was safe. The scariest people aren't always the ones with tattoos and leather jackets. Sometimes the scariest people are the ones who look perfectly normal, while a child starves behind locked doors. Sophie survived because she was brave enough to ask for help one more time. After 4 rejections, after every authority figure failed her, after learning that adults couldn't be trusted, she still tried. One more time. With a stranger who looked dangerous, but turned out to be exactly what she needed. That's courage. And the 220 bikers who showed up? They proved that community still means something. That brotherhood isn't just words. That when a child needs protection, the number of people willing to stand between her and harm can be overwhelming in the best possible way. Today, Sophie is thriving. She's 8.5 years old. She's healthy. She's safe. She's healing. She still wears her honorary angel vest on special occasions. Still calls Marcus every Sunday. Still remembers the day 220 motorcycles showed up because one 7-year-old girl mattered. Vanessa is in prison. The system that failed Sophie 4 times finally worked, but only after private citizens forced it to pay attention. Only after evidence was documented so thoroughly there was no room for denial. And Marcus? He keeps showing up. For Sophie's school events, for her birthdays, for Sunday phone calls and random Tuesday afternoon check-ins. He's the constant presence that says, "I see you. You matter. You're not alone." Because that's what protection looks like. Not violence, not revenge, not chaos. Just showing up, believing, taking action, staying present. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below if you've ever been a Sophie, someone who needed help and felt invisible. Or if you've been a Marcus, someone who showed up when everyone else looked away. Tell me you stand with Sophie. Tell me you'll pay attention. Tell me you'll be the person who believes the child, who makes the call, who refuses to look away. Because Sophie's story isn't unique. It's just one of the few with a happy ending. And we can create more happy endings if we're willing to see the children right in front of us, who are silently drowning while looking perfectly fine to everyone who refuses to notice. You don't need a motorcycle or a leather vest or a road name. You just need a backbone and a phone. Be the person who shows up. Be the Marcus in someone's story before it's too late.